The following podcast reflects the views and opinions of the hosts and guests only. They do not reflect the views or opinions of any agency or specific members of an association. At times, colorful language may be used and may be unsuitable for people under the age of 18. Discretion is advised.
111, 110.
All right, hello everybody. Steve Grammas, president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association. This is episode 16. Big shout out to our 9.4 million followers. I see the ticker board is rolling. Tons of people across the country watching and listening to this show. It's always amazing. And so we appreciate you. Just went up to 10 million. So we appreciate the 10 million people. Joe Rogan, eat your heart out. We're going to crush your numbers. We got a really good show today. Very happy to have a friend of mine, somebody that's come back to the agency. Bryan Peterson is going to be here with us today. We are going to have Scott, our vice president, first time on the show. He's going to do his best not to be like Ricky Bobby and know what to do with his hands. He's going to keep them down and not let them float. And we're hoping he doesn't use too many sticky notes that you can see. Talk about contract, talk about some other issues, and we're going to have a good show. We'll talk about the football game, how it went according to plan. We're very happy about how that played out and looking forward to next year's game. So stay tuned. First segment, we're going to get with Bryan and talk about what he's done, how it brought him back, and what the SWAT and K-9 unit looks like right now under his leadership. So stay tuned. All right, first segment, my man, guy I've known a long, long time. We'll talk about the first time I met him, too, which was in a boxing match at my academy when he came in and knocked the crap out of people. But my dear friend, Bryan Peterson. Bryan, thanks for being on the show with us, buddy.
What's up, buddy? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. No, good time. So do us a favor. Talk to you're the new director of the SWAT team. People are very enamored with our SWAT team, as they should be. Probably the best SWAT team in the country, whether it's competing, whether it's actual operations. We are just one of the best across the country. And now we have you as the leader. But tell the folks, introduce yourself to the folks that may not know you. What you've done, where you've been, and stuff like that, and then we'll ask some questions about direction for SWAT and K-9 and go from there.
Yeah. So I came on the department in 1999, and then I ended up retiring from the department in 2017. Throughout that time, I started in downtown area command, and I had a blast down there. That was a great place to work. That's where I started making my relationships with the SWAT guys and everything. And then I actually got to work with your brother down there. He came and mentored me on some, when I was in PSU, we became a dope team down there, a narcotics team. And,
so you were mentored by my brother.
I was mentored
so that's
by your
why
brother in the narcotics
you weren't
team.
very good at narcotics, because he
why
sucked.
I chose not to go the narcotics path, because your brother was phenomenal, man.
He's such a liar.
But no, I got a lot of experience down there. And then ultimately, I ended up going to SWAT, and I spent 7 years on the team. And then I promoted out of SWAT, went back to downtown as a sergeant, ended up doing a few things down there, took over the PSU team, which is now called the Flex team. And then from there, I went over to Major Violators and was a sergeant in Major Violators for a while, and that's where I retired from. I went over from there. Why I retired, I went to work with the UFC. I became the vice president of security operations for the UFC. We'll get into that a little later. But I came back to the department and became the director over SWAT. It's an interesting story, but the reason I came back is because it was never out of my system. And I know you were thinking about retiring and stuff like that, and I wanted to talk to you about things and everything, but it's weird, man, when you do this career for so long and the passion you have for something, and when you leave, that sense of purpose seems to leave you too. And I was with the UFC, and it was an extremely demanding job, and it was on the go all the time. But I still felt that void, and I still missed police work and what it offered, and the guys and that I worked around, the relationships I had. and what it meant to me. And then when Kevin McMahill won in the primaries to become sheriff, you know, we started talking and everything. And then as he was getting ready to take office, the conversations became more in depth about what his vision was and what he intended to do, and where the SWAT team was at that time, and where he seen them, where he wanted them to go. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, with your experience and everything you have, would you be willing to come back and be the director over the SWAT Bureau?" And there was no hesitation. It was absolutely, and I came back, man.
So 99. Let's talk about. So you talked about that's where you started to meet some SWAT guys. Let's talk about some old school SWAT guys. Who are we talking about here? When you're talking about the new kids, like Zach Adam is probably like one of the most senior SWAT guys right now with a 9,000 P number, or whatever.
Right.
Who are we talking about back then?
Yeah. So we're talking about Zach Adams' dad, Fred Adams. We're talking about Bob Montez, Kevin McCord, Manny Rivera, some very old school SWAT guys. And actually, my relationship started with them when I was in the academy. So you brought up, you met me when you were in the academy in boxing. So during the academy, you have to go through a day of fighting. And it was funny because prior to this day, they asked, the TAC staff asked, who has experience in any kind of fighting, has trained, whether that's mixed martial arts, jiu-jitsu, boxing, whatever it is. And I raised my hand. Said, "What'd you train in?" I said, "I've boxed for a lot of years." And they go, "Okay." And that was the end of the conversation. And then they had some conversation with some other guys, and then it comes down to the boxing day, and all these SWAT guys come in. Kevin McCord, Daryl Hickson, you got Bob Montez, Mark Fowler, Vic Dumas, and a couple other guys. They come in, and I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, holy shit, man. These are some big guys. And I'm young. I'm 21 years old at the time, and I'm seeing these guys. And you look at SWAT guys, and you're like, okay, these are the best of the best. They're in shape. They're training all the time. These guys got to have some skills. So they had worn I find out this later, they had went to the SWAT guys, and the other guys that came back, Anthony Brown, and there was a couple other guys that came back to do the boxing, and they had told them who had experience. Well, apparently they never told them about me. And I was one of those guys, I try to stay quiet during the academy. I try to fly under the radar and draw no attention to myself. I had two brothers on the department already, and I didn't want nobody knowing anything. I just wanted to make my own way. So it comes down to, and this was, I think, the first time we're doing it at a school. And usually what would happen you would go in to do the boxing, and then you would leave, and then your next academy mate would come in. Well, this time, they left everybody in there, and the crowd starts getting bigger and bigger. And I had 70-something people in my academy. So by the end, I'm one of the last. I think I'm second to last to go. So I got my entire academy's classmates inside this gymnasium, and they're all sitting there. And here comes Kevin McCord, and he's one of the bigger guys. He's lean. He's in shape. And he starts bouncing around, and I see, okay, this guy's got skills. So they introduce us. I walk up, and I'm like, all right, I got to get in this guy's head. So immediately I go, I hope you're ready to work. And he kind of looks at me like, who is this? Who is this kid? So immediately, when they say go, he comes in, and I hit him with the right, and he looks at me like, well, they didn't tell me about this guy. What is going on here? So we go to war, and it was an unbelievable fight, and that's where my relationship actually started. After that, all the SWAT guys came up to me, and they're like, how long have you been training for, and how you got any fights? And I started telling them, yeah, I've fought competitively since I was 12. And so that's where my relationship actually started, and then me and Bob Montez became really close after that, and he started guided me into the direction I need to go to ultimately end up getting to SWAT, coming out, role playing, shooting with them, training with them.
Laying concrete.
Yeah, me and Bob started a concrete company on the side, and yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
My,
to make
my
that
brother's
money, man.
concrete slab is still from Bob Montez and Bryan Peterson.
That's right. So yeah, it was, and I still have a great relationship with all those guys. Matter of fact, so the majority, actually, all those guys I talked about have retired, but I do have the benefit, the luxury of the guy that actually trained me, being Kevin McCord, who spent 22 years as the training coordinator for the SWAT team. He's an absolute legend, and he's now he comes back as a part-time employee. He's retired, but he helps us still with our training cadre. And his experience and having him come back and be able to teach what he has taught over the 22 years that he was an instructor there, and also give the reasoning why SWAT does what they do is huge. And we've got these guys definitely headed in the right direction, man. So
it's funny you talk about, the academy, when we were in the academy, it was a very similar story. Billy Van Cleef in our academy was a semi-pro boxer, and no one really knew it. And so poor Daryl Hickson. So same thing. Once you went, you stayed in the room to watch. Mm-hmm. Billy was like number 5, and I was number 3 or 4. And so Billy comes in, and Hickson's talking a little bit of shit. And Billy's a very quiet kid. So they start, and Billy hits him with a shot that literally knocks him across the room. And Hickson says, fuck this. He grabs him for 2 minutes. He holds on to him for 2 minutes. And you see Billy trying to create space and throw tight shots, and he's like, I'm not letting this happen. But then at the end, you and Billy had a exhibition match in there for 2 or 3 minutes that was amazing. Like the whole class was like, oh, shit. And we all thought you'd been on the agency for probably 5-6 years, And then, honest to God, as I'm driving in today, I'm like, my P number 6090. I was a cadet in 98, and you're 64 something, right?
65.
Okay, so I'm like, you were only a year on when I went through the academy. I was like, hey, you were a new guy too. Yeah. And something brought you in there. Like, they weren't just bringing new guys in to come do that type of shit, right? So it like I said, driving in, it dawned on me. I was like, man, you had a decent reputation with those guys very early in your career. And so it's neat to hear that that's how it was built, right? In the forge of battle, really.
It really is. And as we go into this later and start talking about the UFC as well, boxing has opened up so many doors for me. And it's been a blessing to me. And how I started boxing and everything was interesting. And I owe that to my dad. But having boxing is actually where I met Dana White. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, having boxing is ultimately what led me to going to SWAT and building all these relationships. And then I go to the UFC, and I start training in all kinds of different other things. Prior to going to the UFC, I start training in jiu-jitsu and everything. And then I start being able to work out with fighters and stuff like that as I go into the UFC. And then coming back, it's still opening doors for me. So, but yeah, Billy Van Cleef is absolutely one of the toughest guys I have ever fought in my life, and I actually regret asking for that fight. I remember and you tell the story perfect, because I'm looking at Daryl Hickson and I'm going, oh my God, this poor guy, and I felt so bad for him. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, I also feel bad for Billy, because he didn't get a fair fight. He didn't get challenged. Yeah. So I forget I think it was Mike Daly was a sergeant for you guys at the time. And I remember asking him, I said, hey, at the end, let me fight him. And he's like, what are you talking about? He already fought, and you fought like 6 times already. And I said, yeah, but he didn't actually get to work out. He didn't get a challenge. And I was more trying to help defend Daryl because I felt so bad for him. And then me and Daly agrees. He's like, okay. And now, like you said, your entire class is in there. And Billy, you look at Billy. How you would even talk shit to this guy is beyond me. His nose is sideways.
Yep.
You can tell he's a fighter. So I start sizing him up and I start moving, and he's actually faster than I thought he was. And he starts hitting me, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't ask for this fight. And that was an absolute war, man.
No doubt about
That
it.
guy has got mad skills, man. I still love that dude to today. He's a great guy, great sergeant out there.
You guys got done, and I said to Billy, I go, how was he? He goes, he's good. He said that guy's good. And like I said, it was the first time I ever met you. Now, did you guys in the CO Academy, do you guys do something similar? Do you have like a fight day or anything like that?
It's going back 24 years almost now, and I remember being over at Chuck Minker's, and we had DT days, and we had
That's where you guys
boxing
went for
days. That's
DTs
where
and
we
stuff?
did all our training in that. Yeah,
Where was the academy back then for you guys?
we were up on the top floor of the jail.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, like I said, before South Tower was built, before NBC, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And kind of going back, my first introduction to Bryan, I think you were in field training, and I was in range week for the academy as at American Shooters, and the guy decided a 405 right behind me in the store. First one through the door is Bryan coming in to respond, shutting it down and locking the place down, and he starts telling me, he's like, "Hey, your brother's in my academy. I got other brothers and this and that." So I knew there was a lot of nepotism in the family and stuff, but that was the first time I met Bryan. So
That's cool.
23,
It is, and I remember
23
that.
and a half years.
Yeah, and I remember that story, and that's why I'll never go to an indoor shooting range because of that, man.
Yeah,
That's funny.
good stuff.
So now you talked about your background in training, jiu-jitsu and that. So let's talk about, and we'll get into the UFC stuff, but what have you seen? So working at the UFC and where MMA started. We're talking 99, 2000. You were a JSEC guy, right?
Well, so I had trained. I was never really with a gym, but yeah, I had trained with the JSEC crew because
That was John Lewis, Tito.
John Lewis and those guys. So what happened was John Lewis was connected with a guy named One Kick Nick.
Yep,
Okay.
One
so
Kick.
One Kick was my boxing trainer.
Uh-huh.
So I got it's crazy. I was working. I was in the labor's union, and
What'd you do?
I
In the
was a
labor's?
labor.
But
I was
what?
a labor.
What'd you specialize?
I did it all, man. I did concrete. I was a forklift operator. I worked out. So I did the remodel of the Desert Inn, which is now the Wynn. I built was on the site of the Mandalay Bay. And then from Mandalay Bay, I went over and worked with a company called Frainer and did all freeway work. So
I never knew that. I thought Bob just recruited you as, hey, man, I need some help laying some concrete.
Bob didn't know nothing about concrete, man. Bob still don't know nothing about concrete. Bob is a relationships guy, and so I started talking about starting a company doing concrete, and I had done concrete. My dad. When we were growing up, so I have 5 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was a fireman, and they get so many days off and he had so many kids. There's 7 of us that he had a side business where he laid block and did concrete and stuff like that. So how do you save on cost? Well, you got
Family business.
You got 6 boys.
That's right.
then
Free
you have
labor.
them come labor for you. So
You get paid with a roof over your head. That's how you get paid.
Exactly. So you start learning at a young age all of this, and then which is good because again, it helps make some extra money and stuff like that. So and then going into the labor's union and learning that craft. So then I started talking about doing it, and then initially I started with an overlay, just a concrete overlay. I went to a company out in Florida, had learned how to do overlaying and stuff like that, stamped overlay concrete and acid staining and everything.
And that's what you guys did at my brother's too, yeah, because he
yeah.
has that design and all that. Yeah, yeah.
So then I started talking to Bob, and Bob's like, "Oh well, let me help you do it." So, which was great for me because Bob's one of those guys that would just talk to everybody, and he'll convince you that he knows what he's talking about. But he was a great partner, man. He was phenomenal, and yeah, that's how we
interesting.
started doing that. But anyway, going back to the JSAC and fighting. So in the laborers union, I worked with a guy that his cousin was a professional boxer and a kickboxer. So we start talking. He goes, "Oh, well, let me connect you with these guys." And so I started talking with these guys, and his cousin actually trained under One Kick. So then I got connected with One Kick and we started training with him, and it was Tommy Glanville and John Lewis and all kinds of other guys that trained under One Kick. And One Kick's still in the bit. He's still training people. A phenomenal kickboxer. He was a really good trainer. But they hung, they were a different crew and stuff. And I was still young, and actually Dana was training out of that gym. He was training people out of the gym that I was training at. Mm-hmm. And I was getting ready to turn pro with One Kick, and I'm training. We had already had scheduled the fight, and the commission was going to come in and look at me and then sign me off on my pro card and everything. And we're going through training, and Nick didn't show up one day. Well, during that time, Dana was there. He's training. I didn't know who Dana was. I had seen him, and I knew he had a lot of people that trained under him and everything. And so Nick wasn't there, and something happened at the gym, and we had to shut it down, and everybody went outside. And me and Dana started talking. We just started bullshitting and having a conversation, and he told me who he was and where he came from and everything, and that he was opening up his own gym and what he was going to do. And he basically just said, "Hey, man, I think you have a lot of talent, and I would love to work with you. I don't think this is the right move." And I started telling him what I had been talking about and what I was thinking about doing, and he said what he thought I should do, and I thought about it for a little bit, and ultimately that's how I ended up with Dana and training with Dana. So I moved over to start training with Dana. We moved to his gym, which the Fertitas opened up for him, which was 2960 East Sahara, which was at the time was Fertitta Enterprises and their Station Casinos offices and stuff.
Was that down in the basement?
Yeah, down in the basement. And then it ultimately became the UFC headquarters. And then obviously they've blown up and moved on to bigger and better things, and got their headquarters and Apex Center and everything now. So.
How was talking about JSEC? 'Cause my brother trained over there, and it's funny to talk about the evolution of a gym today and the evolution of a gym back in the late 90s. You can probably correct me if I'm wrong. The late 90s, they just beat the shit out of you to see if you'd come back.
That's a fact.
And they did not have a business model to care if you would pay dues monthly. That they would just say, if you can't hang, get the hell out of here. Right?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. So I remember walking in one day, and I had never trained jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. I was a boxer. And I walk into the gym one day, and Tommy Glanville, who's a monster of a man, and he's a kickboxer. He's done a little jiu-jitsu and everything. And he grabs me and starts doing this, and I'm like, what is going on here? How did this guy just do this, and how do I get out of this? And then they start talking to me about, hey, you should think about coming to fight over in Japan. And fight what? Oh, there's MMA. And man, I didn't even know how to get out of what he just did to me. I'm not going, it's great money. Yeah, I don't care about the money, man. So you're right. It was about, let me see how tough you are, and let me see if you come back tomorrow. But now it's the evolution of fighting has completely changed, and from where it was in the 90s to where it is now, it's a completely different game.
Well, and even just the now you go into a gym and you see a mom, a dad with a gi on and training or doing kickboxing and that, right? And back when it first started, it wasn't about just getting in shape and having a workout. It was, hey, I want to be a fighter or I don't want to be a fighter. And now it's, hey, there's people like myself, like just in there. I'm not going to beat anybody up, but I like going in and getting a workout, learning something new. If I'm ever in Target and some crackhead gets out of line, I can probably beat him up, but that's about it. I can't beat up my children. But that's the change. And, we talk with Chad Lyman a lot about how you can't have that mindset of going in and getting the shit kicked out of you anymore, because then the business can't thrive, because no one will come back.
That's a fact.
That's
a fact.
And so, it's cool, too, to see a guy like you in charge at a director's position that has a background in that type of training, to be able to talk to the troops and the guys and say, hey, this is important stuff. We brought you in here. You saw our mat room. We're bringing guys in here trying to, and we genuinely want guys, truthfully, who have never done it before, because you'll learn it and it'll give you a skill set, that common car stop at that guy that says, oh, I'm so tough. When I see red, I'll knock people out. You'll be able to handle them just fine. You're not going to win a competition, but that guy, you're going to be okay, and you're going to go home safe at the end of the night. And so it's the hope is always, Chad and I talk a lot, is that as people promote, those people have a skill set that they go, hey, this is important. It's not some weird kept in a closet type of thing. This is something that we should be doing more actively. And do the guys over in SWAT, do they train? Do you guys do jiu-jitsu and stuff?
Yeah. We have a mat room over
Yeah.
at the office and stuff, and we got a lot of guys that do train in a variety of different things, from jiu-jitsu to Muay Thai, boxing. We got some wrestlers in there. So, matter of fact, just last week, the UFC fight week, or International Fight Week, was in town, and Charles Oliveira and his camp came over to my office.
So that was in your guys' mat room.
That was
the
in my
pictures.
yeah,
I saw
that was
Cody
in the
had a
SWAT,
picture, and
yes.
Nate had a picture. Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
That was in the SWAT office mat room, and they put my team through some training, and they're just a phenomenal team, and they are such good human beings, and they love law enforcement, and they speak Portuguese and stuff. But we had some guys there that were translators and everything, and worked with them on their team. They're from Brazil, and it was just a phenomenal day. But to give my guys that experience, who have some of them, I got one guy who's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and
Teddy?
Teddy, yeah, Teddy and Jim Ferrante, who trains in both Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu. They did very well with these guys. It was cool to watch, man. And then to have some of the younger guys that don't train as much in jiu-jitsu, to see that, yeah, you might be a big guy and you have a lot of muscle, but that actually can work against you if you try to overuse that and stuff. And it's all about balance and finesse, and these guys showed and demonstrated that. But everybody did a really good job with them, and those guys did a phenomenal job of teaching them different things that was important to what we do.
For sure, because you guys, you have even though you're going in, serving a raid or whatever, there's a very high potential, very similar to our corrections side, of going hands-on with somebody.
That's correct.
Not everything is going to result in us pulling the trigger. We will have to engage people, and as we close the distance, being able to know what to do in that instance, just like at the jail, when they go into a cell for an extraction or something, you don't want to go in there like some crazy asshole that doesn't know what they're doing. You want to be under control and do your best to come out of there safe and not hurt them too. Unfortunately, we think about that a lot, but the truth is we, even bad guys, the public expects us to try and treat them as best as we can, that we don't hurt them if we don't need to. And I think jiu-jitsu does that. That helps you get someone into control that doesn't want to be, without hurting them or you.
And I completely agree with you on that. But not only that, what it also does is it helps you understand how to control your adrenaline and not let your adrenaline control you. Because if you can't think straight through when you're training jiu-jitsu, you're gonna get hurt, and you're gonna get in positions, and if you can't think your way out of that, that's a bad thing. So to be able to go in there and train that and get that understanding, I think it helps you tremendously with law enforcement and going out there on a day-to-day decision-making basis, because not only does it give you confidence in yourself and your ability of what you can do if you get in that situation, but it gives you a sense of calm and, again, controlling that adrenaline, understanding that if you can't control it, it's going to work against you, and you're not going to think clearly, and you're not going to think properly of how to handle this situation. So it gives you that sense of calm to work through something where ultimately you're not getting worked up, and you're not even getting into a position where you got to use it. But if you get there, you know how to control it at a level where you're not concerned neither.
Sure. So now you're also over the K-9 section.
Yes.
Right? Great group of of folks over there in our K9 section do amazing, amazing things every day.
Absolutely. Unbelievable section. Great group of guys with a tremendous set of skills. They train constantly. Their level of knowledge of search and seizure is to a whole nother level. The tool they use with that dog and the expertise that they have, it's a true specialty what those guys do. And I couldn't be more prouder of the RK9 section and what they accomplish and how they go out about approaching all these critical calls that they go on, whether that's with patrol, SWAT, major violators. They go out there in the amount, in my opinion, and I think we can pull stats and everything to actually prove this, but in my opinion, these guys de-escalate more critical situations than anybody out there. These guys have the ability to prevent shootings and truly save lives on a daily basis. I love those guys. They're phenomenal.
You know, we share the same sentiment, and I'll let Scott talk about during the contract talks. This is now probably the third time we've tried to get them the assignment differential pay, which we think they're well deserving of, the 8% pay that, you know, plenty of folks in this agency get that maybe, I gotta say shouldn't, but, you know, when you look at sometimes what that's for, the SWAT operators get it because of the skill set, because of their knowledge, their background, their training, what they do operationally. And we took another stab at it, and unfortunately, the department shot us down. And Scott can talk a little more about what happened during that time, and, you know, maybe hoping where you see our K9 folks in the future, potentially trying to help get them what we think that they're deserving of.
Yeah, it's one of the goals that we had as a contract team, and this is the third go around with having K9 as one of the objectives for the contract negotiations. And you know, going back to 2019, we had extensive conversations with the department and their team to try to figure out ways to get our folks that are in K9 the pay that they deserve. They're going through walls, going through doors. They're saving lives, you know, like you said, in a lot of different ways. But you know, we feel like they're saving lives from our department members, you know, our SWAT operators, by sending that dog into the bathroom, if you will. You know, when we go on these OISs and we see the work that K9's standing side by side with our SWAT guys, and we're wondering why the hell are they not getting the assignment differential pay, the hazard pay that they deserve. You know, at any given moment, you know, around the valley, we see K9 rolling code from one end of town to the other to go and de-escalate a situation, as you put it, or possibly, you know, help our patrol guys, back them up, or our SWAT operators, and to the responses that we get in those contract negotiations are disheartening. And you know, we had conversation again this go around, and Assistant Sheriff was very clear that she said, we already give them K9 pay. And I said, you don't give them anything. I said, you're mandated to pay them, you know, dog care. That's just something that you have to do. You're not giving them anything extra. And some of the comments that she made, derogatory in my perception, really kind of hit home that they don't respect the K9 folks the way we do and the way you do. So we hope that down the road they are recognized, and their skills, their ability, their training is recognized by this department as it should be. It's not like we got 200 people that we're asking for pay. I think there's 16, 18 folks over there that would be getting this pay. And again, like I said, you know, hoping that someday someone will respect them the way we do, and offer that pay outside of contract negotiations altogether. You know, we hope that you can have those conversations yourself with the upper echelon of this department and get them there. We don't have to negotiate it. They can say, you know what, we recognize these folks and the job they're doing and the hazard that they're in, and we respect them enough to offer that pay up. They can go to fiscal affairs and get that approved in one meeting. So.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you that I do think they deserve 8%. And I think obviously it has to be a continued conversation, not just, like you just said, not just during negotiations. This does have to be a continuous conversation because the work that they do is, it takes a very special person to be a police officer. Cops have the absolute hardest job, hardest career there is out there, in so many different ways, and a lot of people can't understand that unless you do the job. You have to be on your game all the time, every day. You have to separate your personal life, what's going on in your personal life, and come to work with the clear head. You have to separate the call you just cleared and how messed up it could have been, whether it's something to do with the child or you just witnessed a homicide, whatever that is. And then you got to go to the next call and you got to handle that at a level that is expected to be above and beyond anything. And you got to handle that person with the same care that you would handle. I mean, whatever call it is, there's a certain level of expectation the cops are supposed to have, and sometimes people forget that cops are human. To always go through and think about the worst case scenario, and the cops have to always think about, okay, mentally be prepared for what is the worst case scenario, hoping that worst case scenario doesn't happen. And that's police officers in general. Now you go to the level of being a canine officer. Okay, it's another level of responsibility. You have a tool that you have to be an expert at. This dog is not a pet, okay? And this dog is trained in a certain way to apprehend a suspect that is trying to do harm to a police officer, to somebody in this community. And you have to have the understanding and knowledge of, can I send my dog? Is this a bark and hold? Is this a where I can actually send my dog to apprehend this individual where he gets on a bite? Now you're responsible for how long he's on the bite. All this plays into the liability of not only that officer, but ultimately this agency. And to carry that weight on a daily basis and to do it at the level these guys do it at, I do think these conversations need to be continued, because it's also not something, these guys go there and they are training daily with those dogs to fine tune their craft and how they approach different things, how they're looking at different critical incidents, and how they're going to support not only patrol, but our SWAT operations, our major violators missions, which are all very dangerous missions, and we're going after bad people that want to do bad things to individuals in this community that we are sworn to protect. So I do believe that their responsibility, their job, what they do is a specialty. I don't think everybody can do that job. I think you have to have a special mindset. You have to have special training. And you have to be a unique individual to be able to do that. It's just like not everybody can be a SWAT operator. Not everybody can be a narcotics detective. Not everybody could come be a police officer. It's just not in everybody's DNA. But K-9 unit is special. They do special things. And I do believe they deserve that 8%. And that dog, most of them have 2 dogs. And they don't just come to work, pick their dog up, and then at the end of their shift, drop their dog off at a kennel and then go home. That dog actually lives with them, or 2 dogs live with them. They have to take care of those dogs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and they're responsible for their well-being. And then they're responsible for how they perform within this community when they're doing their job. So I do think it's a continued conversation. I think it's an educational thing, and I think we got to maybe look at some of our staff that's making these decisions to go out and ride with them if they haven't, and go to their training and look at how they're doing things, and have conversations with these guys about how they're approaching these critical calls and stuff. So I am a big proponent of them getting an 8%.
We would be remiss if we didn't also acknowledge that we lost Kimura a few weeks ago. I know Canine Handler Bachman is that also shows another level to this. This isn't just a tool. This isn't just something we say, hey, I go pick it up like a taser. It does become a part of the family for the handler and the entire team and the entire section and everyone that's been around them. So as we talk about our K9 folks, that you say a little prayer for Officer Bachman and Kimura, and who had a great career of service to the community and was a real part of the family when he was here. So. That's it's definitely that continued conversation that we try to have, and it's great to see that we definitely have an advocate. And knowing you for as long as I know you, you're definitely not afraid to speak your mind to the higher ups. You don't care about getting some next position of rank or what people think. I know Kevin brought you back here for a reason, and if he didn't like you speaking your mind, he wouldn't have brought you back.
That's a fact.
And so we know that hopefully we can try and talk to these people and let them know how it's not just, hey, you release a dog. It's the same thing saying, well, a helicopter pilot just flies a helicopter. He doesn't run cases. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get down there and chase people. But then we see what Tom Cognian and his team did when we tried to scoop up our NHP brother and tried to take him to the UMC, landed in the middle of the freeway, never been done, recognized him at Top Cops and that as for their heroic actions. And who was involved in that? Officer Corbett, K-9 officer, ready to go help and do what he can there too. So, as we wrap up with UB, appreciate you being here. I want to talk about, there's been some continued conversation about our supervisory survey that we sent out. We've had some folks reach out to us asking why they did so poorly. We've had some folks laugh about how well they actually did. And you were included in there. And the one thing I tell people is that cops are not going to write a comment about someone if they're just mildly like them, or if they're like, yeah, I don't like them all that much, but I really don't care. They're not going to take the time to write a review on people. It's like Yelp. If I go somewhere and have a crappy dinner, I may say something, but odds are I won't. If it was horrible, I'll probably say something. So when people write comments about folks, I think it means something. And so, just for you, just to cover what, in your short period you've been here, the folks that wrote, great supervisor, does his job, period. He causes his subordinates to want to work hard while protecting the agency at the same time. Is the best thing that's happened to this unit. A leader who leads by example, truly cares about his officers and their well-being, cares about his officers personally and professionally. As happy he is our director, I can trust him and feel comfortable talking to him. The best person at the captain level I've ever worked for. One of the best men I've ever met, a man of true integrity who leads from the front. What does that mean to you? Do you care what your subordinates say, or does it mean the world to you when you hear stuff like that?
It means the world to me when I hear stuff like that. It's actually, it's overwhelming. It's humbling. But that's one of the reasons I came back. I truly care about the individuals that do this job. To me, they are extremely special human beings. And again, I go back to not everybody can do this job. And I'm truly here for them and making them the best them, bringing out. I'm not here for their comfort. I'm here to bring out the best of who they are, which when you do that gives you the best section, gives you the best agency, which ultimately gives you the safest community. And that's what it's all about. I want to give them the tools to succeed. I want to have the conversations with them to see what they need, give them what they need, and get out of their way to let them do it. The culture starts with me, I truly believe. And if I'm not going to lead by example and be engaged with my people, how can I expect them to be engaged with what they're doing in this community and doing the right thing? There's going to be certain people that just do it because of who they are. But bringing a team together and clearly giving them the expectations and getting their buy-in of what it is that you want, but also listening to what they want. and then giving them the ability to make the decisions based on what they want. It's been one of the most amazing things I've been through, to come back and to have the opportunity I have, and to work with the SWAT operators, the SWAT sergeants, the SWAT lieutenant, the K-9 officers, and the K-9 lieutenant, and then just this agency in whole, and the people I get exposed to on a daily basis with the calls we go on, and the missions we go to. It's been a blessing, man.
How's your boy doing?
My son?
Yeah.
My son's doing phenomenal, man.
Son's on the job?
My son's on the job. I'm so impressed with my kids are the most amazing things ever. My son, he's his own man, and I love that. And he's made his own way, and he made a decision. First, I didn't want him to be a cop because I know how hard this job is, and I know what it could do to you mentally. But he's his own man, and he said, "No, I'm gonna be a cop. There's no talking me out of this." And he came on, and I actually retired when he was coming on, and then to have the opportunity to come back and to see what he's doing. He works in major violators, and to just have him call me every day and tell me the stories and hear the excitement in his voice and ask my opinion on things, it's phenomenal, man. He's unbelievable.
He was out on the shooting we had at the Gold Coast, right?
Yes, he was. He
And
was.
One of my PPA members believed that was your son. He's at least 6 inches taller than you.
He's a big boy. He's
yeah,
a big boy.
everyone was like, "There's no way that's his son." I'm like, "Yeah, that's him. That's him."
So I'll tell you, I'm glad he got the height because he has a twin sister.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it wasn't reversed.
Really?
Because
I didn't know that.
So she's very, very small and petite, and he's a big boy. So I'm glad it went that way. But yeah, no, that's my boy, man.
Awesome. Well, before we close the section, I know you've been hitting me up for weeks about, Steve, can you get me a copy of the magazine while you're on the cover?
Can you autograph that for me?
Well,
man?
go ahead and grab. That's your copy.
Oh,
Go
is
ahead and
that my
grab that
copy?
and open it up.
Man.
And I actually wrote you something on the inside, Bryan, and just knowing how much it meant to you and what you wanted, I just felt really compelled.
To my number one fan, BP. I love it.
Yeah,
man. I'm
just
gonna frame this.
I had to get you that.
I appreciate it, man.
and,
This means a lot. This means a lot.
Now,
I'll fan myself.
B, we do appreciate you coming in. Know you're busy. You're checking the phone. Your job doesn't stop. You're always getting notified on things and stuff like that. But we do know that the folks that follow us, which 10.62 million now, they care about seeing the cool units, and SWAT is one of those really cool units. And having a guy leading it that has tactical background, and I think we glossed over or didn't even mention it, but you were a former Marine, right?
No, that was my brother's.
Oh, that's
That
right.
was my
That's right.
brother's.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
that
right.
my
Adrian
brother's.
was the Marine.
Adrian was a Marine.
And he
Al
works
was a
he works in the section
Marine.
now, right?
Adrian does work in the section. He's
Solid
he's
human
the
being.
lieutenant. He's solid.
Solid
man.
human being.
Solid with a great resume. So
Yeah.
he's going to do well there.
Love it. Well, hey, we appreciate you being here. We know the SWAT and K9 section's in good hands. We love having you around. Hopefully one day we can get you up here to roll around with us in
do
that
it,
room.
man. I'm
And,
in.
We'd love to have you on again if anything ever pops up that you want to talk about. But
Let me know.
we appreciate you. We will take a quick break. We'll come back and talk a little bit about contract and some issues that Scott is the expert in. So stay tuned. All right, great segment talking. It's always cool when we get to talk with those specialty units, and then to get a guy like Bryan coming in talking about his experience and what he's doing now with the unit, a unit like SWAT and K9, and we hope to have some more follow-up conversations with some actual guys from SWAT talking about some missions and operations and that. But so because we have a good following of our membership, we wanted to segue into the contract that we just settled. It was just signed last week, I believe. We got it signed. Scott actually put the ink to paper, and the contract is in full force. It's effective July 1, so it retroed back. And Scott's going to talk about the work that the contract team did and what we ended up with, and the amazing job. And Scott's, to be very clear, Scott has done our contracts for many, many years as the lead and has done an amazing job looking out for our members, trying to put more money in your pocket, trying to make your working conditions better. And it all really funneled through Scott. He would just brief me. I don't have a hand in it. He just really crushes it and does a great job. So I thought it was important for him to talk to everybody about that process and where we're at and what our folks are looking at and dollars and cents. And, it's all yours, Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Steve. The credit really goes to the entire team, though. Kelly Sweeney does an amazing job putting the language together for these contract articles. So props to her for doing all that extra work. I give her an idea, and she puts a pen to paper. So, the team itself negotiates with the department, and we have this ugly process. It's probably one of the worst that anybody has to deal with, and that's because we have to negotiate with the department, we negotiate with the city, and we negotiate with the county. Someone is always pointing the finger at the other entity, saying it's their fault. Why don't we have longevity after all these years? Why can't we negotiate that back? It's always, well, the city doesn't want it, the county doesn't want it. And that was the bullshit excuse we got this time. Pretty clearly, they pointed the finger at the county and city and said they don't want it. So we made it very clear that was going to be one of our top goals, was to get a longevity piece back in for our membership. Pensionable money is always the most important thing. The bonus money and clothing allowance and all those things are great, but pensionable money is what we really want to always focus on as a team. And when the team gets to a certain point in negotiations, where we feel like there's enough on the table, we take that negotiation, that offer from the department, the county, and the city, and we put it to the membership for a vote. We had 13 people negotiating for our team this year. That group of people should not be making a decision for 3,500. By the end of this year, we're going to have 70% of our department will not have been receiving longevity, if I'm saying that right, would not be receiving longevity. So that's a significant part of our department. And we made it very clear that longevity was going to be something, no matter what the form of it was going to be something that we continued to bring to the table every single session. The department understanding that we wanted pensionable money, they came to us with an offer that we thought was too good for our team to decide, and we put it out for ratification from our membership to decide if it was significant. We had an amazing turnout. We're so happy with the amount of people that actually took the time to vote. Blew away any past voting that we've had on contract negotiation, and our membership sent a clear message that what we had on the table was significant enough to accept and to put in front of fiscal affairs. So with that, over 2,000 people taking the time to vote, nearly 70% of our membership voted, and it was pretty clear that they voted, yes. I believe we're at 86% of the membership voted yes on this contract. So just a few highlights, and I apologize for my sticky notes. Steve doesn't like them, but I could have done it with the phone. But I don't want to miss anything because there's a lot of things that have kind of been lost in the conversation. But this is a 3-year contract. It started July 1st, as Steve mentioned before. One of the things, this current paycheck that we're in right now, it was a split check. So we had one week from June of last year, so the last rate of pay, and then 1 week in July. So this next check, you'll see the full effects of that 6% COLA. And then the following check is when PERS will step in and take 3%, which you all know we don't have any ability to negotiate. That's just something that it's a legislative thing that they can do, and we have to absorb that in our rate of pay. So we can talk about, and if anybody ever has questions on where that 3% goes, please give me a call. We're trying to come around to briefings and stuff this summer. We'll go over some of that. They call a factor or kicker, and we'll try to explain it to our membership that money doesn't just go away, that it's actually included in their retirement when they retire. So it's kind of deferred, like your deferred comp would be. But with that, some of the highlights, we have Juneteenth now that it's official state holiday as well as contractually. So you'll see that on the new contract. The new contract is online, by the way. It's lvppa.com. You scroll down to the bottom of that first page and you can see the CBA, and it's uploaded as of yesterday. But Juneteenth is in there now, and it's a pensionable holiday, which is good. So if you're taking money towards your best 3 years and you work that holiday, it will now count towards your pension as well, which is great. We have an extra professional leave day, which again, one of those little perks, just having 3 now and being able to utilize a little bit more time for your family, or if you want to take that day off and work a overtime day or something and help out somewhere else around the valley, put a little extra money in your pocket. That's great. We have 50-hour sellback, which is something we negotiated kind of mid-contract, but that's back up for this year and for the next 3 years. The court pay has gone up from 2 hours to 3 hour minimum. I know some people won't be affected by that as much as others, but some of our traffic guys, I know from doing breath certification for years, you walk into court, you got your 3 hours, they look at you and they turn around and go, you know what, we'll make a deal. So you're not going to spend that full 3 hours. So that's nice to get that extra time. One of the things that we want to make sure that we tried to get some language in the contract, but prep time. Make sure that if you're prepping for court, whether you're in homicide, whether you're robbery, whether you're in traffic, and you're prepping for court on your own time, and it's the only time that you can do that, log those hours and submit them for overtime. It's important. It's a lot of money, and it's time that you're taking away from your personal life. Ask for it. The department has to pay you under FLSA. They recognize that during contract. They expect you to put in for that time and be paid for that time. So unless, I talked to someone over in backgrounds, they said, hey, we're told to shut our phone off and leave it off until our regular work schedule. Okay, don't be insubordinate. Don't put in for time that they're telling you to shut it off, but then go and enjoy your time as well. Our specialized units, we have specific language in the contract now. Before, everybody said, hey, you're off in lieu of, but just don't drink and make sure you're ready to work just in case. Bullshit. That now is in contract. If they tell you you're off in lieu of holiday, shut your phone off, enjoy your holiday, go have a beer, have 20, whatever your thing is, and enjoy your day off, but you are not required to come back or sit by your phone and potentially wait. As far as time off, we put additional language in for approval of vacation approval. A lot of times we have our supervisors saying, hey, we got someone off on FMLA, we got someone off on military, we got someone off light duty for something, and so we can only have one off, or whatever the number is. Those things cannot be considered any longer, and it's in contract. So if you got people off for those things, they can call in overtime, they can do whatever they need to do, but they need to disregard that when they're looking at approvals. Court pay, bonus leave. So you can hold an extra 40 hours in bonus leave now. You can't cash it out, but if you have 240 and you got a full bank and you can't get to it or use it, in most cases you have to burn it down to 210 before you get your next year's bonus time. Now you can at least hold up to 280 and not risk losing that or getting sick or something, where you can continue to hold to 240 to cash out if you're getting near the end of your career. The purging, that was a big one. I know a lot of people say, oh, I'm never going to get in trouble, it doesn't affect me. You'll be surprised that you think you won't get in trouble, and then you get a phone call from IAB that something pops up all of a sudden. So purging's huge. Before it was 18 months for a written, 3 years for a minor suspension, so 8 hours to 32 hours, and then for a 40-hour suspension, it was 5 years. The sheriffs agreed that those are excessive. The written's going to stay at 18 months, but we've reduced the minor suspension from 3 years to 2. That's a 33% decrease, which is huge for testing purposes and whatever amount of time that's going to be in your file. The majors are going to be 4 years now, unless they're criminal. So DUI, BAT DV, something criminally related that goes through the criminal court system will be still purged at 5 years. But anything else, like just whatever, whether it truthfulness, whether it was an egregious use of force, whatever, that was a 40-hour suspension, will now be 4 years. And so that helps for people testing and getting that purged out of their file in case they want to test for sergeant or do some other testing. So that was a really big victory under this contract. The COLA, you'll see in the contract. So we got a hyperinflation 1.5 and a 4.5 this July 1st. So the hyperinflation 1.5 is from the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year. So that, in addition to the 4.5 for this year, is going to be why you're getting the 6%. In my career, this is my 24th year, we've never seen a 6% COLA. We've seen 4s, we've seen 3 3/4, but we've never seen a 6% in 1 year added onto your check. Unfortunately, PERS is going to take 3 on the third week of July. Again, nothing we can do about that. But the formula now, similar to what we had before, was a 2 for a COLA if the COLA CPI was below 2%, and it was a 3 if it was above 3%, and anything in between there. If it was a 2.7, it was a 2.7. We've renegotiated that term. So in this hyperinflation, as we called it, if the CPI is now 5% or more, so 5.0 or more, you would receive a 4.5 the following year. That goes calendar year. So right now we're determining from January 1st to December 31st what the COLA will be for next July 1st. Right now we sit at a 5.05. If that holds steady for the rest of the year, you'll see a 4.5 next July 1st. If it drops below that 5, you'll see a 3. Almost zero chance that it's going to be below a 3 for next year. So you can kind of anticipate that in your budgeting. The new low number is a 1, so 1% if it's 0.0 or less. In the last 80 years, the CPI number's only been 0.03 times, and in the same 80 years, it's been 5.0 19 times. So the odds are better for us to see that 4.5 than to see the 1. So that's important. And then moving on to the most important section of the contract is this. It's under 13.12, and it's kind of what we call the PO3, PO4, PO5, and the same for the COs. And that is going to hit 4% at 10 years. At 15 years, you'll get an additional 4%, and at 20 years, you'll get the final 4%. We don't call it longevity. It's not longevity. It's more about our critical staffing needs. And under this new PO 3, 4, and 5, it's for payroll purposes only. It's not a rank. It's not a who's got more time senior in the car. It's simply for people that were not receiving longevity, that were hired after 2011. I think it was October 24th of 2011 and beyond. They will receive this. Everybody else that was receiving longevity prior to that would not. There's been some questions as to whether or not one person's going to make more money than the other. There is some times where the younger folks will jump ahead at 15 or 20 years. Overall, the longevity pays out a little bit more, but by the time our folks are getting to that 15 and 20 years, 99.9% of the people that are receiving longevity will be gone unless they're, a Vel Goins who's got 40 years on the department. So in the end, we're really proud of the team getting this new money, if you will. The membership was clear in our survey. They were clear in our polling that it was the most important thing, and 87% of the folks polled said that they would stay longer at 20 years if they were receiving that extra money. So we hope that helps with some retention as well, and some quality cops not going for other departments or that because they're going to get paid a little bit more money. So with that, if anybody has questions, I'm always willing to answer the phone or emails or text, whatever. Reach out to me personally, and we'll be happy to help answer whatever it is that you may be hearing in briefing or somewhere else that a lot of times is wrong. So a little long-winded, but
that's all right. It's a lot of good info, but it's important information. Again, we can't say thanks enough to Scott and the team for doing the work they did to try and, again, put more money in your pocket and recognize the hard work and dedication that our folks on both the PO and the CO side do. So really thankful for that. And, I'm at the twilight of my career. We'll segue into another portion of the show, which was my apparent retirement that I had announced on Facebook that I contacted PERS back in April. They sent me a number that my wife says she couldn't refuse. And so the plan was for me to retire. Thankful to my friend Scott here, looking at my numbers and realizing that PERS made an absolute error and just gave me I'm sorry. So I will not be leaving. But funny enough, on top of that, you guys will recall that the PPA launched a lawsuit against Tina Lease and the PERS group regarding the actuarial study for the drop program and things like that. I got a letter Monday that said, we want to remind you that I purchased some time because they told me my number would be a certain number. So I spent about $70,000 to purchase time based on them telling me, hey, if you purchase, this is where you'll be. So I called them and said, hey, I think you should refund me the money. And they, over the phone, the first lady I dealt with, very nice. The second lady, not so much. Maybe there was some residual because the PPA sued the PERS system. But I ended up getting a letter in the mail that said, because you have pending litigation, now mind you, this is the PPA's pending litigation, not Steve personally, we will not talk to you. You cannot call us. If you want to do anything, you have to send us an email. And the folks that know me know that I'm not going to let that just slide by. So we'll be following up with some folks at the PERS group. But at the end of the day, the PERS people are fallible. They make mistakes. I understand that, but that should be important for our folks to know too. Is that they're sending you numbers that you need to recheck. And what Scott, and again, I applaud Scott for his savviness with the numbers. Is if you have a question and you think something's off, give him a shout. He can talk to you. It's fairly simple math, which is kind of shocking why they sent me such a overinflated number. But the math is pretty simple, and Scott was able to figure it out for me, and I do appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, and Steve makes a good point. Check your check, double check the estimates, because they're going to say it's an estimate, and you're gonna be gone, and they're going to send you that first check and go, oh, sorry, we effed it up. Too bad. Do you think the department's going to reinstate you? Probably not. Especially if they were looking forward to hiring some new guy in your spot, making a lot less money. So call up here if you're a member. You're watching this, call up here and ask. Steve's right. The numbers are pretty general for each year of service, depending on if you're a graveyard guy, an A2 guy, or girl. If you're just straight day shift, base pay, whatever it is, give us a call. We'll take a look at the numbers and we can get a pretty good idea if they're close or close enough that they're accurate. I had another case just from a gentleman out at the airport said he got some bad numbers just recently too. So that is a problem, and we obviously want to make sure that they're giving you the best information possible.
And since it happened to me, it's interesting because I've had people send me messages, hey, it's happened to me, it happened to me. So I didn't know this was quite a topic of conversation. I thought maybe I was a one-off, but it seems that the folks there make errors quite often, which is bad because as Scott and I talked about, if I left and I got my first check in January, it would have been X amount less, and when I called, they would have said, sorry, we gave you a wrong number, but it was an estimate, and so tough luck. I will say I believe the folks at PERS definitely, if you give them any money, if you buy any time, if you do anything, you're getting nothing back. And their goal is to try and pay out as little as possible, I believe, my opinion. So, it's an interesting dynamic, but I'm here. I am not going anywhere for the foreseeable future now. I appreciate the very kind comments from people that said, hey, on one hand, we're sad, Steve, that you didn't get to retire, but on the other hand, we're very happy that you're staying. And I'm very thankful to the team that, is happy I'm staying as well. Adela as well, who actually almost kind of like fist pumped when I said I got screwed and got the wrong numbers, that I was staying. So, but it does make me feel warm inside that people still want me to be around. So I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for Scott. I'm thankful for the team that enjoys having me around. So I'll be here for the foreseeable future, and I will. If I leave in the future, I will just announce 1 week in advance. I promise I won't do anything deeper than that. We'll just go 1 week, and we'll figure it out from there. Couple other topics. Talk about we've got here. We got the cover of the Vegas Beat magazine. Tierney is on the cover from our Top Cops. She did amazing. We had her on the show before talking about her incident with her OIS and her recovery and things like that. And we had a great time back in D.C. as usual. Top-notch stuff. The dinner was amazing. The fellow nominees were, just a room full of heroes. It was really, really great. The Police Unity Tour seems to get bigger and bigger every year. We're so proud to see our Metro folks riding through there. It really is a blessing. If you haven't been, please try and make it a point to go. Save up for it. Get a small hotel. Go see what it's like. It's really, really fun, and it's heartwarming to see so much support for our profession, because we do know in the media that people take shots at our profession quite frequently, and so it's nice to be in an environment where you can wear your badge, wear your shirt, and not feel like people are looking at you a certain type of way, because everybody there is in the same boat. So we'll also recap the football game. Man, it was great. I just love how after the game people are like, oh man, it sucks you guys lost, and they see me smile and they kind of go, well, why are you laughing? I said, no big deal. Yeah, we lost. They were better than us. Just a better team this year. But I got to be honest, and for everyone watching and for everybody wanting to be involved, that game went exactly how I planned. It went exactly how I told the team they needed to act on the field. And someone was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, of course we threw the game. There's no two ways about it. And I can say that because it's not like the NFL where, you could get, indicted for gambling and shit. That was the fact. I talked to the guys many times. I said, we want to put on a good show. You saw how quickly we scored that first touchdown. And I had a conversation with our quarterback and our offense, and I said, hey, back off. We win this game the way we did last year, the firemen don't come back. And they really wouldn't have, because they had more talent, and I'll give them credit. They definitely had more talent. But we could have shut them down from the very, very beginning, and we did. And then we had that conversation. If you recall, there was that big, long pass play. And I talked to our secondary. I said, it's 4th down and long. Let them go. Let them score a touchdown. And so our DB kind of acted like he was out of position. And, at halftime, it was close. You'll recall, I called a timeout right before the end of the half. I did that because I didn't think they were going to get the kickoff, and I needed them to score. I needed them to be ahead. And so we called that timeout, gave them a chance. They kicked the field goal, and they went up by, I think it was 9-7 or whatever it was. And so at halftime, I gave one of the most inspirational speeches to the players that said, stop. Let them win this ball game. We know if they win, they're going to play us again. They're going to feel really proud of themselves, right? Scott, I mean, we were out there. Those guys were.
Hold on, I got to pull my pant legs up.
Yeah,
It's getting so
they
deep
were
in there.
super emboldened on how it went. And so the focal point was year 3. This is chess, not checkers. And so year 3 needs to be a big game. And now I think it's set up that way. And we can be honest about what happened out there. And the Fire guys probably know it, that we tanked that game. You didn't see our players from the year prior, all of the team. Like the guy that, Darius Gant, who we submitted his tackle to ESPN where he destroyed the Firemen's quarterback. I mean, flipped him over his own head. Darius wasn't out there. You saw players of ours that weren't out there. You saw guys that seemed like a little slower. They weren't taking it serious. And I feel compelled to let the Firemen know that now, that's what happened. So now it's 1-1. And now we'll have a game next year. And, man, maybe we get lucky and play a little better. We'll see. Maybe we don't win. Okay. But it's going to be, it was a great event, though. Bishop Gorman, top notch, everybody involved, our sponsors, everyone that stepped up and helped us out with the game. It was amazing. Year 3 is going to be where it's at. And some people might even say the reason I didn't retire was because I had to be committed for year 3. Steve, you set the stage with throwing that game and that you needed to see this thing through. Maybe they're right. Maybe I retire at the end of 2024 after we win that rubber match. But either way, the game was amazing. I thank our Fire counterparts. Dylan for the Fire side did a great job getting his team together and putting everybody in place. Very happy that they stepped their game up. Very happy that they think they really won. And very thankful that we had no injuries come out of that game and everybody had a good time. The VIP area was amazing if you didn't get a chance. Last year, get that ticket. It was amazing. Thank you to the Raiders. Thank you to the Golden Knights. Somebody walked away with a team-signed jersey thanks to our main event sponsor, George Maloof, of the entire VGK team, which eventually won the Stanley Cup. So you, whoever won that jersey at the auction, has a Stanley Cup championship team-signed jersey. Years from now, that thing is going to be a collector's item that people want to pay you millions of dollars for, guarantee it. But at least $1 million. At least $1 million. Yeah, so the football game was great. We had a great time. We really appreciated it. One last thing. Last night, we had the magazine we talked about. We joked a little bit about. I mean, definitely Bryan did want my autograph. He did want a copy. He's sending SWAT guys to my house, knocking on the door, 10 at night. Steve, where's Bryan's copy? But thank you to Vegas Legal Magazine. Thank you to Preston. Thank you to Tyler. Thank you to Brandon. Thank you to everybody that was involved. Thank you to Adela, who, listen, in my eyes, why would someone want to see me on the cover of a magazine? To me, it's kind of silly. I'm just a cop. I'm not a attorney. I have, it is what it is. But Adele always puts things in a different perspective for me that maybe I don't see. And so it was really neat that they took the time to put me on the cover. I was very humbled, very honored. We had a fun event last night. Met a lot of very interesting folks at the event, and we look forward to supporting Vegas Legal Magazine. We also had what I believe, and this is Steve's personal opinion, we had our future mayor, Victoria Seaman, came out there to support and interact with us. She's always supportive of our cops, man. Every time we need somebody, she's the one that steps up. And next year's election, we're very hopeful that she does very well. The PPA is a big fan of Victoria Seaman, and so thank you, Victoria, for coming out. I think we've covered everything, or are we all? Upcoming events. Do you want to cover upcoming events?
I'm pretty good at it. I don't think I need a cheat sheet, but let's see. We're gonna have baseball game sometime.
Nope.
No, we canceled that, didn't we? Yeah. So we're gonna have an ice cream social, but that was Wednesday.
We already did it.
We're gonna do another one though. It was a
No,
good
we're
turnout.
not.
So then we're gonna do. We're gonna do that big German thing, right, with the hot dogs and the Steins.
I'll give you a hand.
Oktoberfest.
I'll give you a hand, Scott.
It's gonna be in September though.
July 30th, we have Children's Discovery Museum. And again, for those folks that are not
I
members
was just getting to that.
of the PPA, I know, I just, for sake of time, that if you're not a member, we do apologize. These events are not for you. This is specifically for our members. This is how we give back to our members that are dues-paying members. But July 30th from 9:30 to 12 will be exclusively the PPAs at Children's Discovery Museum downtown by Symphony Park and the Smith Center. And then again from 5 to 7:30. So if you can't make it in the morning, you can make it in the evening. I think we're going to send an email out letting us know, because we want to get some donuts and stuff like that for the morning, maybe some pizza and stuff like that for the evening. Big thank you to Children's Discovery Museum for hooking us up with this event. It seems like it's going to be fun. Then we've got August 5th. We're going to do a movie day for the new Haunted Mansion, Disney ride that many of us have been on and maybe got scared on. It's very spooky. My wife thinks it's super scary, the movie. I'm like, it's got Owen Wilson. It can't be too scary. But we'll do our normal big theater at AMC Town Square. That'll be that date. Then we move into September. We have September 16th is our UNLV tailgate and football game against the Wyoming Cowboys. I was very close, against the Vanderbilt something or others. What's Vanderbilt's name? JD, what's Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt Commodores. You might be right. Yeah. If we're wrong, sorry, Vanderbilt. But UNLV is going to beat you anyway, so it doesn't matter. We won't care what your name is. You're just going to be another L for you and a W for our program. Then we move into what Scott just talked about, October 7th. Scott, take it away. October 7th is our
Oktoberfest.
bingo.
And looking forward to that. There's going to be some drinking, some food, some entertainment. I'm sure Prager will be playing some music, and good time for adults. And when we say adults, that doesn't mean there's going to be any kind of weird shit going on. It's going to be just fun for adults that can come and spend some time without their children, and just have a good time with the PPA and seeing us in a side that we're not always dealing with the negatives. So we're going to have some positives.
It's funny that Scott had to be specific on that, because we always look at it from our lens when we say adults only, that we're like, man, do people think like it has some weird connotation? It doesn't. It just means no children. And the reason we want is because we don't want to have parents come and have a couple beers, but then have to worry about where their kids are in the parking lot and that. So we try and do something. We do a lot for the kids, but we try and do something for the adults, and that's where this one was born. We're going to have a cornhole tournament. We're going to have a hot dog eating contest. We're going to have a beer drinking contest. It's going to be a fun time. So we're looking October 7th, 6 o'clock p.m. Start time. Adela just said till 10. Odds are that 10 o'clock is a very loose number. We will stay until the last person leaves. CCAC strong.
Boy. That didn't work out good the last time. But I know Pete Biznansky is going to be there as a retiree. So retirees or lifetime members are welcome as well, right?
Retired lifetime members. Pete is bringing the belt back. We did this event several years ago. And Pete won a belt as the champ. And if Pete walks in the door and you can beat him at the hot dog drinking or the beer drinking, you take his belt. So he's putting a lot on the line to lose. If he didn't come, we'd just get a new one. But since he's willing to come defend, be ready. Study up on Joey Chestnut, how you got to eat properly, strengthen the jaw and all that. Don't eat for 4 days before. But if you want a shot at Pete's title, come on out and be ready to go. Then we've got a October 26th to October 27th, Nevada Day. That is our big trunk or treat Halloween event here at the office. That is family friendly. That is for the kids. That is the haunted house in the basement. That's always a good time. We're always enjoyed putting that event on. We usually have about 1,200 to 1,500 people come through there. So please, when we have a long line at the haunted house, please forgive us, but we have only so many ways we can move people in and out of there and at such speed. But next event after that is UNLV football versus Wyoming. November 10th. If you hear that's Adela in the background, she's keeping me straight. November 10th, that'll be our second tailgate against Wyoming. Again, another win for us and another loss for another conference opponent, which is great for us. We're really looking forward to seeing Coach Odom, who came to one of our membership meetings and talked to the membership about importance of police and how they've affected his life and the interaction between his student athletes and the police department and things like that. It was we're really hoping they do great things at UNLV this season, and I think they are. I think they're going to a bowl game. I'm going to call it now. They're going to get 6 wins, and they're going to go to a bowl game.
I'm going to go 7 wins, and they're going to go to a bowl game.
Well, all you need is 6. Once you hit 6, you're bowl. You're in the
doing a
bowls.
little recruiting this year. It's kind of
They have.
impressive. So they might.
What did he say? The number 1 recruiting class in the Mountain West, I think he said. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah,
believe so.
and somewhere like in the top 30 in the country for nationally for everybody. So Coach Odom's doing good things over there, and so we're
Supposed to
excited.
be some great linemen coming in or something. Some monster.
Really?
I understood.
Yeah, I don't know.
So on the D line. So hey,
Good
we always
stuff.
wish them well. We
do.
Locals.
Yeah, we want
Love
our
to see them win.
we want to listen. We talked about our Stanley Cup Vegas Golden Knights, but our aces, who were the defending champs for the WNBA, are on a tear. They're winning. I don't think anyone can beat them, and they're probably going to go back-to-back champs. And so, very, very proud of all of our local teams as they move through. And eventually, sorry, Oakland A's, eventually when you come here, I am a Yankee fan. I don't care how well you do when you come to town. I care that when you play the Yankees, you lose 3 games here in Las Vegas, and I get to watch them, and I have a Yankee jersey on.
And I am also a Yankee fan
Yeah.
coming from New York. So
I won't convert to be an Oakland A's fan. I'm a Raider fan unless they play the Giants. November 5th, I will be at that game. Sorry to all my friends at the Raiders that I will be wearing a Giants jersey. Probably Eli Manning, the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL ever. So we got that. Then we've got. We'll get back to that's not really an event. That's its own thing. See, she tries to correct me on things that I intentionally meant to not do. I forgot. Santa Day is our big day at Magical Forest. It is November 19th in the evening time. That is no better way for us to spend our dollar than giving back to the folks at Opportunity Village and the great work they do with children and young adults and adults with learning disabilities. Our members, I had members just the other day at the Ice Cream Social say, man, I can't wait for the Christmas event. They love that. And they roll out the red carpet for us, and it's a really fun event with a really good cause attached to it. So that pushes us pretty much through the end of the year. To our delegates, to our board members, to community sponsors that may want to get involved, our delegate convention, our second annual delegate convention will be on October 19th. It is a very special day, October 19th, Scott Nicholas. Yes. 44 years prior, I was brought to this world by the wonderful Sharon Grammas and her husband, Jerome Grammas, weighing, I think I was like 14 pounds, and my mother just pushed me out on a gurney in a hallway. So she was ready for me. The world was ready for me, and so it'll be my birthday. It'll be a great day. If you are a community partner that wants to get involved, we are selling limited seats at the event to come out and support your officers. We have opportunities to sponsor the hospitality suite, some of the events during the day, a breakfast, a lunch, because it's going to be a day-long training for our delegates. So if you are interested and you want to be involved, you want to get a table, you want to be a part of it, reach out to us at Adela A. Solano at lvppa.com, and she can get you hooked up with being involved as a sponsor or part of that event. So tons of things coming up for the rest of the year, Nicholas. We're looking forward to it. We are happy to have the team we have. I'm happy to have Scott with us. And I think he did a good job today. Yeah. I think you did a good job.
it's just talking to our folks, man. It's not that hard.
Yeah. No, well, listen, some people they get a little nervy. You know, you look good.
I am relaxed.
Yeah.
I'm on my blood pressure meds. Everything's good. Took some extras this morning. Took some Ambien.
Holy shit.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
Just kidding, but
Just kidding.
But he is light duty, so if he needs to take a medicine, he's allowed to. He just got the clearance from health and safety. So, as usual, we thank everybody for watching the show. We're now over 11 million followers. Bryan Peterson segment just pushed us way over.
I thought it was me.
It could be. We'll find out because we'll bring you back on without him. And if we jump almost 1 million with it's Scott. It's got to be. But we appreciate you watching the show, listening to the show. You're at the gym. You're at home. You're trying to get away from your kids, and so you have your headphones in, acting like you're doing something serious, but you're really listening to the show. We appreciate it. And if you ever have topics you want us to talk about, people you may want us to bring on, send us an email. Hey, I'd like to know about this. I'd like to know about this with your agency. We're always open to more ideas. So until then, till we see you next time, on behalf of Scott, Adela, Roland 7, running our podcast and a lot of our video footage, We appreciate you. Stay safe. If you ever need anything, let us know, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
111, 110.